Part 2 of The Band of Brothers, an Oracle story for the Second Renaissance. Explanation, commentary, and application. So what are we to do with this little story? Maybe we should start with the backstory of the story, which started with the new moon in Capricorn on January 1st of 2014. And so I received this story a little bit each day as I wrote the daily Oracle report. So every morning before I would go to work, because I was still working at the Rape Crisis Center back then, I would sit down like I would do the Oracle report every day, and lo and behold, the story was shown to me, and it was pieced with the day's astrology. So this is why the story is very disjointed and incomplete, because it was an introduction to each of the day's Oracle reports, the daily reports. And so I would make sense more from it during when I was writing about the day's astrology. But when you take just the narrative out of those reports, this story, the Band of Brothers story, which I did compile a few years later, still not understanding what it was about, vaguely kind of understanding, and knowing one day I would understand it. And I do now. And so let's go through it and see what we see. And as I go through it, think about which characters or which parts of the story are resonating with you now and what's going on with you now. Okay, the story begins as a journey. It's a quest. It starts at the new moon. And the culmination of that quest comes with this Libra cycle. And so throughout this month, throughout this cycle, we will probably be experiencing each part of the story in a micro way. So even though this month is when the ending of the story is, we may re-experience in a small way earlier parts of the story. So we begin the journey, the quest, and we start off meeting our companions, the emissaries of the divine masculine, the Band of Brothers, Mercury, Mars, Uranus, and Pluto. These are also symbolic of the Gnostic Thelete, the divine will or willpower, the divine masculine. That's another story. So these are the elements of the divine masculine that are with us in our journey. The first thing that happens is we encounter another traveler, a magi, a wise man, Jupiter. And Jupiter expands our vision, and he gives us information, and he tells us that there is more going on than meets the eye. So he is trying to tell us to look at what is the symbolism of what's happening, to look at a bigger picture of things, expand our vision out. And then we encounter the divine feminine, Venus and the black moon, the sisters. And Pluto tells us that that's a sign of good fortune when Venus and the black moon are together. And it always brings something good. And it does. Venus is on her way to a convent. She is going in search of wisdom. And the black moon tells us that she's offering us passage through her land, her domain, and reveals to us that there is a war party following us. And then our guide, Kali, is introduced, and she is an emissary of the Gnostic Aeon Sophia. She's a wisdom goddess and a teacher, and she's a fierce warrior. And she tells us to focus on inner peace. So every time Kali speaks in the story, she's giving us direction. We then have an unseen wizard, a kind wizard, who gives us a blessing and a gift, a map that has markings, and it's marked with a path through the underworld of the black moon. So right now, the black moon and Neptune are conjunct in Pisces, Neptune's home sign. It's the ruler of Pisces. And this is significant in the marking of time, the markings on the map, and markings in time. So the we are directed to discard whatever is dragging us down with this gift from this wizard that's unseen. And we're told to give it to Kali, basically turn it over to a higher power, and to aim for balance, and that she will take care of it. And we're turning it over to the divine feminine, that things that are holding us back and dragging us down. Kali says the forests of the Black Moon's domain are very familiar to her. It's a place where elements of the past are taken and turned to dust. Okay, this is what Kali's energy does. Anything that is blocking the spiraling evolution of consciousness is reduced here and now. If we are holding on to those elements, we can become caught in that grind. And this is why we feel the ground beneath us has given away now, and in the here and now. The structure of the Archons and the New World Order minions, the structure they have built, it stands in direct opposition to free consciousness. In fact, it's the opposite. It's mind control and slavery. And so it is being churned to dust. And we feel like, the bottom is dropping out. We come to an overlook of Venus's convent, which is a grove, because all spiritual houses are outside in nature. And we are witnessing a funeral ritual. And Kali doesn't miss a beat. And what she does is she turns our attention to a rainbow. Did you notice that rainbows became so big, so dominant of a symbol this past summer with Pride Parade and everything that goes along with Pride in the LGBTQ world, and branching over into the rest of the world? This was an attempt to subsume the Rainbow Bridge, to turn it into something the dark ones could control, which is impossible. Because those symbols can't be turned. So Venus takes us aside to show us that the Aeon Sophia has gifted us something, the Transformer Flame. I think the Transformer Flame is the most challenging part of the story to understand. The Transformer Flame is what has been working on us, it's working us over since 2015. Because this story, the quest actually began with the new moon in Aries in 2015, which was the Sabian symbol of the music of the spheres, and it was the time of shift, and it was the time the Mahavidyas outlined 2015 to 2020, or the end of astrological year 2020, which will be in 2021, as the time when the bulk or the strongest of the archonic forces, the archonic energies and possesseds, the possessed people, would be dispatched back to source. They would be off the scene, basically. So she tells us that the Transformer Flame magnetically pulls out whatever binds and enslaves us, whatever holds us back, what we fear. Okay, so an electromagnetic process has been happening to actually pull that out of us, out of the cells, out of the etheric body, out of all the bodies, and to prepare us for rebirth and to refresh our energy. So that's been happening since 2015. It's been a long road. We continue on and a storm emerges, and then Diana, the huntress, the moon goddess, arrives to accompany us through the remainder of the journey through the Black Moon's underworld. And she arrives on the eve of the full moon. So we will watch that day, which is upcoming. It's Saturday night, October 12th into the 13th. The full moon is Sunday, October 13th at 5:06 p.m. Eastern Time at 21 degrees of Aries, which is the Eris point. See the marking points in time? All pointing to now. So Diana lays down cover. She's shooting her arrows at things, and she tells us to focus our intent and shoot anything that tries to overtake us. And this is metaphorical shooting. Okay, that's not, please understand. Whatever you do, she says, don't stop. Keep going. The fear winds, which manifest as the winds of anxiety, by the way, will take us off into the shadows to be where we'll be lost in illusion. So she says, don't stay in fear. Keep moving. And then we come to the border of the Black Moon Country and we encounter Chiron, the keeper of the Rainbow Bridge, the rainbow that Callie had pointed out to us earlier. And she says, Chiron says, the Rainbow Bridge appears at various points in time to transport travelers on a spiritual path. So travelers on a spiritual path are transported out of shadows, pain, and suffering. It takes us there. We're riding on it. It's a bridge of light and it's a prism and it filters things, it sorts things into three parts. Things that are based in high intention are empowered, things that are in low intention are scrubbed, and things that are neutral stay that way, undetermined, just as energy. He says that crossing the bridge is an ascent in consciousness. Excuse me. It changes the nature of personal and worldwide reality. And then Callie speaks. She says the properties of the Rainbow Bridge, the properties of light, are malleable and can produce a wide range of effects. This bridge has been configured like a prism that will filter into three parts: that which is held in high intention, that which is held in low intention, and that which is not yet determined. These energies will undergo refinement. And she asks us if we're ready to go. Now, we come to the part of the story that's culminating now, the end of the Rainbow Bridge. And this month, each of us is tested in some way, a personal test, and then we reach our destination. The destination is the playing field of Eris, her domain. Eris's ruling sign is Libra. Mars now, in the here and now, has entered Libra. And this is the signal that we are on that field of consciousness. It's not that Eris, the planet, is located in the sign of Aries right now. It's where her domain is, which is Libra. She is the secondary ruler of Libra after Venus. She's the broader, more general, or more complete ruler of Libra. So by the end of this month, this Libra solar lunar cycle, we take flight from that Rainbow Bridge, right? All of the owls shoot out of the Rainbow Bridge, fly out, and they take flight and they land as sparks of light on the unified field of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, Mars and Eris, the twins, the battlefield twins, together. So our job is to land, to ground ourselves, stick the landing, and then amp up who we are. Turn it up to 11 in Spinal Tap speak. To be you, be the biggest and the best you. This is only a battlefield in that we are stationary figures like poles of supercharged light and plasma. We out-vibrate the battlefield, the battle. We're transmuting it. And this is what we do all the way through solar lunar year 2020, which ends on April 11th, 2021. That's our goal. That's our mission. That's our skill. It's not a fight. It's a transformation. It's not a battle. There's only one skill for the daily oracle reports anymore, and that's to be the wise owl and be the tree as one. Amplified brightness. You could think of it as a grove of trees, birch trees, white, bright even, all glowing and amplifying. We become the grove, and then everything moves around us. We are empowered. The archons have no authority over us. And the designated time for the rebirth of humanity and the entry into the ascended world has begun. And the reason that there is so much anxiety now is because at the same time we are coming to the great Saturn-Pluto conjunction of January 2020 that I have spoken so much about and that I recorded a very long audio about. I will link that below. Saturn and Pluto conjunct only every 33 to 38 years, and it's the time when the Illuminati forward their global actions. In the past cycles, in the past conjunctions, we had World War I. If you remember from my recording, I detailed it heavily. The Fed was started. We had the darkest part of World War II. We had Roswell. Then we had the fall of the Iron Curtain, the Iran. Before that, the Iran hostage crisis. So all of those things are deeply embedded or imprinted now because we are approaching that time again. And we're having a trauma response because the collective consciousness remembers what happened in the past cycles at each time Saturn and Pluto came together again. Okay, it's an imprint. There's precedent. It's history. So we are re-experiencing the past that is encoded in our cells. The reason that we feel like something is going to happen is because it always has. The difference now is that we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. So we're re-experiencing that trauma response that's encoded in our cells. But we remember that the transformer flame has been working on all that to diminish the effects. We aren't slaves to the past any longer. Now we are rising above it. So as we hold our position of our own power on the field of consciousness, we force a rise. It isn't done by engaging in violence. It's done by expressing beauty and love and self. Now, some people may be expressing beauty and love and self through memes or reports or directly engaging the minutia that is so hard to keep up with because it's coming so fast. That's their way. Your way is your way. You might, to be and fully express you might paint a picture, and painting that picture is now the act of a spiritual warrior if that painter, if that spiritual warrior is conscious of what they're doing. If they're conscious that they are countering the darkness, countering the fear and the anxiety by expressing themselves, expressing their humanity. That's what does it. That's what creates the ascension. And so that is our goal for all of us. It is not to be obsessed with every little development that happens as we move forward, most likely to a world war and a civil war probably at the same time. This is where it looks at this time like it is headed. That isn't understanding the details and the steps that get us there is not nearly as important, or I might even say not at all important compared to the mission and the goal. Express love and beauty and self, expression of self. It's time to be you. Okay, there's no more time for the fluff of recapitulation of our past, to quote Carlos Castaneda terms. It's irrelevant now. It's now the time to emit your personal frequency and harmonics. Being you, amped up to 11. Expressing who you are. If that means that you turn away from what is happening in the world with the minutia to some degree, that's what you do. Don't be caught in the black screen. Don't feed your energy into all of that. Feed your energy into the here and now and the amplification of you. That's what we do now. And that is how we enter Second Renaissance. All right, I'll be back next up with part 3 of this, basically, which will be the specific astrological aspects that were in place at the new moon in Libra and in effect all month, and then looking ahead to what we have with the upcoming full moon. So see you then.